If you could take a time machine to the Berkshire Hills of 1895, you'd witness America's most spectacular display of banking wealth. Your modern eyes would struggle to process Shadow Brook's scale 400 feet of Tudor magnificence perched halfway up Bald Head Mountain like a medieval castle transported from England. While today's billionaires hide their compounds behind security systems, banker Anson Phelps Stokes built his palace to be seen from every angle, 12 imposing chimneys announcing his arrival to the American aristocracy. Indeed, your luxury hotel stays would seem quaint compared to Shadow Brook's deliberate excess. 3 separate dining rooms, a ballroom that outshone New York's finest, heated greenhouses producing year-round flowers in New England winters. Yet within 60 years, this architectural masterpiece would vanish completely, leaving behind only ghost stories and foundation stones. In today's episode of Old Money Mansions, we explore the spectacular rise and fiery fall of America's most magnificent abandoned dream. Perched majestically atop Bald Head Mountain, with commanding views over Stockbridge Bowl, Shadow Brook wasn't just big. It was an absolute monster of a mansion that would make today's luxury developers weep with envy. Stretching 400 feet across the Berkshire landscape, longer than a football field, this Tudor revival colossus contained over 100 rooms across 3 stories and a basement, making it America's second-largest private home, outdone only by the Vanderbilt's Biltmore estate. The mansion featured locally quarried white marble, brown rough-hewn tiles, white stucco and timber framing, crowned with 12 imposing chimneys visible for miles around. From its strategically placed windows, residents enjoyed breathtaking panoramas of Stockbridge Bowl's waters, West Stockbridge Mountain, Rattlesnake Hill, and the distant silhouettes of Monument Mountain and Mount Everett. The ground floor housed 17 reception rooms, including a ballroom for society dances, a wood-paneled library, an intimate cedar-lined room, and a music room capable of seating 500 for concerts. Why host a quartet when you could accommodate an orchestra and audience? Dining options included 3 distinct spaces: a breakfast room flooded with morning light, a grand dining hall with Old English oak paneling, and a third dining area, because sometimes 2 dining rooms aren't enough when you're obscenely wealthy. The second floor offered 20 guest bedrooms with 15 bathrooms, a nearly 1-to-1 ratio remarkably progressive for the 1890s, when shared facilities were common even in luxury homes. The family occupied 11 master bedrooms with 9 bathrooms on the 3rd floor, while servants had 11 less luxurious bedrooms and 5 shared bathrooms, still better accommodations than most working Americans could claim in that era. The basement contained industrial-scale laundry facilities where staff processed mountains of linens, alongside wine cellars stocked with vintages appropriate for entertaining the social elite who summered in the Berkshires. Beyond the main house, the estate included stables for thoroughbred horses, comfortable lodges for groundskeepers, heated greenhouses producing flowers and fresh produce regardless of season, clay tennis courts, and a private reservoir. Throughout the mansion, rooms were deliberately oversized, with dimensions expanded by 1 foot beyond standard measurements. A subtle but significant enhancement that reflected the owner's philosophy that bigger was unquestionably better. The property's placement halfway up the mountain wasn't accidental. It guaranteed those jaw-dropping views while literally positioning the Stokes family above their neighbors, an architectural power move that perfectly symbolized their social standing. Operating this private palace required an army of servants, gardeners, cooks, and maintenance staff who kept the complicated household machinery running smoothly through all seasons. A domestic workforce larger than many factories of the era. Completed in 1893, after just 2 years of construction, Shadow Brook represented an investment of $500,000, approximately $17 million in today's currency. A fortune even for a family of tremendous wealth. With materials sourced from both local quarries and distant suppliers, the mansion combined regional authenticity with cosmopolitan sophistication, a carefully calculated balance that distinguished it from more obviously ostentatious Gilded Age showplaces. For the fortunate few who called this architectural Leviathan home, daily life unfolded against a backdrop of unimaginable luxury, with every convenience engineered to eliminate discomfort and every vista designed to reinforce their exalted position in America's social hierarchy. Shadow Brook wasn't merely a house. It was a monument to ambition, wealth, and status that made an unmistakable statement about its owner's place in the world. Anson Phelps Stokes had arrived, and he wanted absolutely everyone to know it. To understand how this extraordinary palace came to be, and why it would ultimately vanish in smoke and flame, we must turn to the ambitious banker whose vision created this marvel before fate dramatically altered its destiny. Anson Phelps Stokes, born in 1838, to a family already established in America's financial aristocracy, represented the sophisticated face of Gilded Age wealth, a banker, merchant, and philanthropist who had transformed his inheritance into a fortune estimated at $25 million. His marriage to Helen Louisa Phelps in 1865, a distant cousin sharing an ancestor who arrived in America in 1630, proved financially advantageous as she inherited $1 million and a Madison Avenue townhouse in 1888. Together they raised 9 children while maintaining residences in New York City and rotating through increasingly grand country estates, embodying the restless social climbing that characterized America's elite during this period of unprecedented wealth concentration. The Stokes family's journey toward Shadow Brook began with their growing frustration with Staten Island, where urban development was encroaching on their once isolated Second Empire-style mansion, compromising the exclusive environment they desired. By 1889, they had acquired the homestead in Lenox, Massachusetts, but their ambitions quickly outgrew this property, prompting an aggressive land acquisition campaign that ultimately amassed approximately 900 acres in the fashionable Berkshire Hills. The Berkshires had become the summer playground for America's social elite, with neighboring estates like Ventford Hall and Naumkeag setting standards of luxury that Stokes was determined to surpass with his vision of an English manor house reimagined on an American scale. Stokes' conception for Shadow Brook aligned with the late 19th century obsession with English culture among America's wealthy families, who often sought to legitimize their new fortunes through association with older European traditions and architectural styles. The name Shadow Brook carried cultural significance, having been coined by Nathaniel Hawthorne in reference to a picturesque trout stream meandering through the property, a literary connection that provided intellectual credibility alongside the estate's material splendor. Construction began in 1891 after considerable drama in the planning stages, including the dismissal of America's most prestigious architectural firm, McKim, Mead and White, following personal conflicts between Stanford White and Helen Stokes. The Stokes then engaged H. Neil Wilson of Pittsfield as their architect, though persistent rumors suggested he may have adapted plans originally created by Charles McKim, rather than starting completely fresh. Similarly, legendary landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted was initially involved but replaced by his former student Ernest W. Bowditch when Helen Stokes rejected Olmsted's vision, illustrating the significant influence she wielded over the project's aesthetics. Construction proceeded at a remarkable pace between 1891 and 1893, requiring 500 skilled laborers working simultaneously, a workforce rivaling major industrial projects. The Tudor Revival style selected for Shadow Brook satisfied the era's architectural fashion for historical revival styles, particularly those evoking English aristocratic traditions, allowing new money to drape itself in the architectural language of established nobility. Unlike some Gilded Age mansions designed primarily for show, Stokes envisioned Shadow Brook as a functional family compound, accommodating his large brood while providing venues for appropriate society entertainments. Beyond the main residence, Stokes commissioned extensive supporting structures, including greenhouses, stables, carriage houses, and water management systems, creating a self-contained community requiring dozens of staff. The estate was designed for both summer and winter activities, accommodating seasonal pursuits from boating on Stockbridge Bowl to tobogganing and ice fishing during harsh New England winters. When completed in 1893, Shadow Brook manifested the peak of Gilded Age residential architecture. A private palace constructed not by inherited royalty, but by a banker whose family had risen to prominence within a single generation. After millions spent and thousands of worker hours invested, Shadow Brook finally stood ready to fulfill its intended purpose. Though ironically, the Stokes family would enjoy their magnificent creation for only a brief moment before personal tragedy intervened. Shadow Brook's glory days under the Stokes family were shockingly brief. A mere 6 years, from 1893 to 1899, an astonishingly poor return on investment for such an architectural showpiece. During this golden era, the mansion fulfilled its purpose splendidly, hosting lavish parties where more than 50 guests enjoyed seasonal pursuits from toboggan races in winter to tennis tournaments in warmer months. As the social epicenter of Berkshire high society, Shadow Brook's events reportedly overshadowed the grandest bulls of New York, making it the essential destination for America's upper crust. Behind the scenes, Helen Stokes ran the estate with military precision, earning rare praise from the head gardener who noted, "Mrs. Stokes was the best manager I have ever known. Many great ladies are so sudden in their demands that a gardener is always nervous, but not Mrs. Stokes." This well-oiled domestic machine halted in 1899 when Anson Phelps Stokes suffered a riding accident with his horse Dingley, resulting in the amputation of his left leg, an injury limiting his ability to enjoy the country lifestyle for which Shadow Brook was designed. By 1900, the Stokes family began renting out their barely broken-in mansion, and by 1901 had abandoned it entirely, a startling about-face that prompted considerable speculation. The New York World fueled gossip in 1903 by publishing an article claiming Stokes had been driven away by the workings of an old Indian spell placed by Native Americans who once inhabited the estate. In 1905, Spencer P. Shotter purchased Shadow Brook and began its pattern of revolving door ownership. No single family would ever occupy the mansion for more than 7 years. Shotter's ownership proved ill-fated as he lost his fortune following a 1909 antitrust conviction, another apparent stroke of bad luck feeding rumors about the property being cursed. The estate's fortunes briefly revived in 1917 when Andrew Carnegie acquired Shadow Brook for $300,000, seeking a retreat due to health concerns and wartime travel restrictions. Carnegie's tenure proved even shorter as he died at Shadow Brook in 1919 after only 2 summers in residence, strengthening suspicions about the property's uncanny ability to reject owners. Following Carnegie's death, the Society of Jesus purchased Shadow Brook in 1922 and converted it into a Jesuit novitiate, finally providing stability after decades of revolving ownership. For 34 years, the Jesuits adapted the mansion's spaces to serve their religious mission, with ballrooms becoming chapels, libraries becoming classrooms, and bedrooms transformed into dormitories. This period ended catastrophically on March 9, 1956, when an oil explosion ignited a fire that spread through the elevator shaft, engulfing the structure before firefighters could respond. The inferno claimed 4 residents, 3 Jesuit priests and 1 lay brother, a tragic human toll far outweighing the architectural loss. Despite Carnegie having installed a sprinkler system, it was inactive during the fire, allowing flames to consume the wooden structure and transform America's second-largest private residence into ruins within hours. By daybreak, only stone foundations and chimneys remained, the destruction so complete that rebuilding was deemed impossible, leading to the decision to construct a new building downhill. The fire marked the end of Shadow Brook as a physical structure, but its curious history of abandonment, short-term ownership and destruction left lingering questions about whether mere bad luck or something more mysterious had plagued the mansion. As embers cooled on the ruins of Stokes's grand vision, plans were already underway to create something entirely different, setting the stage for Shadow Brook's afterlife in forms its original owner could never have imagined. Following the catastrophic 1956 fire, the Society of Jesus moved quickly to rebuild, completing a replacement structure by 1958 on a site downhill from the original mansion's ruins. This new building bore no architectural resemblance to its predecessor. Critics described it as a monumental mediocrity, a utilitarian brick structure designed for functionality rather than aesthetic appeal, with hundreds of plain rooms arranged around a central chapel. The Jesuits continued using this institutional-looking structure as a novitiate until 1970, after which the building sat vacant for over a decade. Its purpose exhausted as religious vocations declined during the post-Vatican II era. In 1983, the property underwent perhaps its most unexpected transformation when it was purchased by a Hindu ashram and reimagined as the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health, a spiritual purpose completely at odds with both its Jesuit predecessor and its origins as a temple to Gilded Age materialism. Today, the Kripalu Center occupies the 1958 building, offering yoga retreats, wellness programs, and educational workshops that draw visitors to a site once reserved for the exclusive enjoyment of America's financial aristocracy. The land where Shadow Brook once dominated the landscape is now marked only by a level area surrounded by stone walls along the East Drive at Kripalu, known simply as the Mansion Lawn, a humble designation for the foundation footprint of what was once among America's architectural treasures. While the mansion itself vanished forever, 6 original farm buildings designed by H. Neil Wilson survived both time and fire to become part of the Shadow Brook Farm Historic District, officially recognized on the National Register of Historic Places on March 10, 1988. These architectural remnants now serve primarily as components of the Berkshire Country Day School, which acquired this portion of the original estate from the Stokes family in 1963, creating an unexpected educational legacy from what was once a shrine to wealth and privilege. The terraced hillsides and mature trees planted during Shadow Brook's heyday now frame a campus where children from diverse backgrounds receive education in buildings originally constructed to support a single family's lifestyle. Elements of Ernest Bowditch's original landscape design continue to shape both the school campus and the Kripalu Center grounds, with century-old specimen trees and strategic viewpoints providing continuity with the property's storied past. Local tourism materials occasionally reference Shadow Brook in discussing Berkshire County's cottage era, when America's wealthiest families built enormous summer cottages in the region, though most visitors have difficulty imagining the scale and grandeur of what once existed. The transformation from private pleasure palace to centers for education and wellness represents a remarkable inversion of values from its origins. Where conspicuous consumption once reigned, mindfulness now prevails. Where exclusivity was paramount, accessibility is celebrated. Visitors to Kripalu often practice yoga or meditation without realizing they stand on the grounds of what was once America's second grandest private estate, an ignorance that might amuse philosophical observers of wealth's transient nature. Students at Berkshire Country Day School learn in buildings originally constructed to support the lavish lifestyle of a single banking family. An ironic repurposing that democratizes spaces once reserved for serving the ultra-wealthy. For architectural historians, Shadow Brook's story serves as a sobering reminder about the vulnerability of even the most substantial structures. Without preserved images and written accounts, this American architectural achievement would exist only as local legend. The strange journey of this single property, from Native American land to Gilded Age showplace to religious institution to wellness center, encapsulates broader transformations in American society, values, and relationship with wealth over the past century. The contrast between Shadow Brook's brief 63-year existence and the centuries-old European estates it emulated, highlights the compressed timeline of American wealth, where fortunes and monuments built to showcase them can rise and fall within a single lifetime. And now we'd love to see you in the comments. Do you find it interesting how many Gilded Age mansions have been lost to fire? Let us know your thoughts. Thank you for watching another episode of Old Money Mansions. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.